Friends, I'm sorry. I'm just not going to be able to get on the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra bandwagon this year. There are too many things knocking around in my brain that are keeping me from getting enthused about this phone. And the big one for the Ultra is that when Samsung laid out the drafting sheet for this phone, the goal wasn't to pack it with as much stuff and technology as possible. The goal wasn't to come out with a cutting-edge device worthy of your $1,300. The goal was to advance the ball just far enough and come up with a design and feature set that was the most unoffensive to the most amount of people possible to make sure that when you walked into your carrier store, this was the phone that you'd buy. And for $1,300, that's unacceptable to me. And I don't like the counter argument that I keep seeing. People keep pointing out, well, the main problem people have with it is the S Pen. And then they go into the S Pen. That's like admitting to a more minor infraction, hoping we won't come back for the big one. Yes, the S Pen is an annoyance. Yes, it's more a symbol of what's happened to Samsung than anything else. However, it's not the main reason I have a problem with this device. RAM, battery, cameras. Those are the areas where Samsung could have innovated or given us more, and they didn't. And I don't want to hear that you're not using the 12 gigabytes of RAM that you have in the phone now. I understand that. 12 gigabytes in 2025, probably 2026, is going to be just fine. But when Samsung comes out and makes Galaxy AI and Agentic AI and all these features that are coming, the headlining reason why you'd buy one of these phones, don't come to me in 2 years when the company turns around and says, hey, that latest Galaxy AI feature, you're not getting it because you don't have enough RAM. Don't come talking to me. And don't think it's not already in the playbook. Google tried it last year. Remember when they were saying some of the Gemini features wouldn't be able to come to older Pixels because of a lack of RAM? It's already in these companies' playbooks, so don't be surprised when it's used against you on the Galaxy S25 Ultra. It's a joke that this phone doesn't have 16 gigs of RAM, especially for $1,300, period. Battery tech. Is the battery in the Galaxy S25 Ultra better than it was last year? Absolutely. Fantastic. All-day battery. My OnePlus 13 gets 2-day battery. Will this make it into a second day? Yes. But by lunchtime, by the afternoon, I'm going to need a charger, whereas on the OnePlus 13, I don't need a charger. And you might say, well, that doesn't affect me. I only use it for the day. I charge it every night. Doesn't matter. This is the Ultra. This is supposed to compete with phones like the OnePlus 13, spec for spec. And it's nice. It's one of those things that used to be in the Ultra that's nice and you don't really think about it, but once you have it, it's comforting. To know that I could forget one night to throw my OnePlus 13 on the charger, which has happened on a couple of occasions, to be able to come back and know I got a full day no matter what, or if I don't, I have 80-watt fast charging to top me off so that in 20 minutes, I'm good for a whole day and then some. Then there's the camera hardware. Disappointing that we can't get larger sensors or whatever we could get on a phone called the Ultra. I don't know why it's the outlier argument, and I don't know why it's so frustrating for people that when you have the audacity to name something the Ultra, that people turn around and ask you to have one or two features worthy of the designation. I don't think that's asking a lot. And yes, there is one feature on this phone that I love and I think is the best on any smartphone out there. It's the display. But guess what? You could get the same display on the S25 Plus for $300 less. And that's the point. You get relatively the same battery life, 4,900 milliamp hours over there to 5,000 here. So you're getting the battery, you're getting this display, you're getting a thinner phone. Yes, you're not getting the 50 megapixel ultra wide camera, the new one, but that's a weird gatekeeping thing from Samsung. Again, trying to do just enough to move the ball down the line without actually innovating whatsoever. And that really is, to me, I just hate feeling like I'm made to be stupid. I hate the feeling like the company is playing me, and it feels like Samsung's playing me. And I understand why. I'm not naive. This is a business. Samsung doesn't have any competition, and it's really starting to show. Windows Phone is gone. BlackBerry's gone. Huawei's banned. Motorola is hanging on. Google is doing its own thing off in the distance, and you're not buying an iPhone. The Snapdragon 8 Elite in this boxed out Google, right? Because if you're a gamer, if you're somebody who's a hardcore user, if you want to use a lot of the stuff on here, more intensive Android apps, you're big on multitasking, yes, you're going to look at this phone before you look at something like a Pixel. So if you're an Android fan or you're coming from an older Samsung device, where else are you going to go? And notice that when Samsung's talking about this phone, they're comparing it to the S21, the S22. They're not mentioning OnePlus. They're not saying, hey, we beat OnePlus here, we beat OnePlus here. You want to know why they're not mentioning OnePlus? They don't want you to know that OnePlus exists. Because you'll be sitting there and pick up that OnePlus phone and look at those specs for that price and you'd be like, really, Samsung? Really? This is what you give us for $1,300? No one's saying not to like your phone, okay? That's the last thing I'm trying to say. This is a very good phone. If you're a Samsung fan, you're going to love this thing. If you're coming from an S21 or an S22 that's performing poorly, you are going to get your upgrades here. You're going to like this, and you're going to be like, wow, this is an amazing phone. Why would anyone have a problem with it? I don't have a problem with the phone. I have a problem with the strategy. I have the problem with Samsung charging $1,300 for a phone that I don't believe is worth that kind of money. And look around the landscape. Creator incentives for this particular phone are the highest I've ever seen it. Trade-in offers and enhanced trade-in offers from Samsung are through the roof. Ask why. Not to borrow Enron's tagline, but ask why that is. Because Samsung knows that this isn't that exciting of an upgrade, and if it's going to get people motivated, it needs to give them incentives to do so. Next year, when the S26 Ultra is a significant departure from this phone, you're not going to see those trade-in offers anywhere. They're not going to want this. I can tell you that. Okay, so I've gotten that out of my system. That's my misgiving. The phone is good. We're going to talk about that now. Let's talk about the display. Excellent, best in class. Really love that Samsung has gotten back to those poppy panels. I hated that little interlude where they were going with more natural displays. I understand that you might be somebody that needs the more natural display, whether you get headaches, you need it for work, that's fine. Do what Samsung did. Give us a slider. Give us that vibrancy slider so I could pump mine all the way up, enjoy my basically neon cartoonish colors, while other people could dial down the natural tones if they want. I think that's something that is a really nice, and I'm really happy to see Samsung get back to the poppy panels. This is a best-in-class display. It's one of the best that Samsung's put out in years, and I'm glad to see it on the Ultra. But then again, you can get that on the Plus. Performance, no problems whatsoever. Snapdragon 8 Elite is exactly as advertised. And the great thing about the Elite is that a lot of people were concerned about power efficiency in this particular chipset. Turned out not to be a concern. I'm getting better battery life than I probably should from a 5,000 milliamp hour battery, pushing a 6.9-inch Quad HD display. But it's nice. All day, into the next day, without a problem, even with all that power in this particular device. Yes, camera has improved. I like the photos from the 50 megapixel, or from the main shooter, the 200. I like it. No problems whatsoever. Sharp, detailed, color. I really like the color science that Samsung's gone with this year. I think it's poppier. I do like the fact that the photos look better on Instagram. You know, they're kind of social media type photos. But that's what I like to see a lot of times with these. And you can go in and tweak it and stuff like that. The one problem I'm starting to have with pixel photography is that it's a little too stark. It's a little too natural. And Samsung was starting to do this too. Samsung with the Galaxy A55, there were a couple other devices out there where Samsung was starting to get a little too natural and you'd have to go in and edit. I don't want to have to do that. Point and shoot photos, I want to be Instagram memory ready, and that's what you get with the Galaxy S25 Ultra, so I really don't have any particular issues there. Galaxy AI is a mixed bag. It's frustrating that I think Samsung should have led with One UI 7 as more of the advertising on this. Now Brief does nothing, literally nothing. I don't understand what it is. I hope there's a big patch coming that makes Now Brief do anything. I've tried to link it with Samsung News. I've tried to link it with Samsung Health, hoping that it pulls in something generative. Nothing feels generative in Now Brief. And that to me was the selling point. That's what we were supposed to get. We were supposed to get features that would interact with our day, that would be useful for our day, that would say, hey, you know, the type of things like, hey, it's going to rain later in the day. Why don't you bring an umbrella? And I could look at that in the morning and say, oh, you know what? I wasn't even looking at it. It's sunny outside now. I wouldn't have even thought of that. Thank you, Now Brief. Thank you, Galaxy AI. None of that. Now Bar. A lot of promise with the Now Bar. I can't wait to see what third-party developers do with the Now Bar. But right now, it doesn't work. I could follow my sports teams. Sometimes it'll work. Sometimes it won't. They'll pop up. They'll go away. It needs a lot of polish. And then there's the bit. when you have the cross-app integration that you've seen working fine on OnePlus 13, on your Pixel 9 Pro. It's not exclusive to Samsung, and it still requires a lot of tweaking. If I tell it to look at my calendar and send X event to a friend, you gotta tell it which calendar, you gotta parse words on the query to which messenger you want it to, then the friend, sometimes it'll send it to the wrong friend, sometimes the format is wonky, you gotta go in there. It would just be faster for me to look it up and do it myself. I just wish that instead of focusing on all this AI stuff, Samsung would have focused on the basics a little bit more with software. Give us better multitasking like we have on the OnePlus 13 with Open Canvas. Give us a more intuitive app experience that would allow us to get this information ourselves a little faster and put it into the apps that we want. Now, AI is not all lost cause on the Galaxy S25 Ultra. The photo removal stuff and the ability to pull out shadows and artifacts and everything works fantastic. The video stuff where it could isolate different sounds and pull that out, and you could have different volumes at different times, fantastic. Photo just stuff in general with the computational stuff, fast, snappy, fantastic. There's a lot of good AI that's happening behind the scenes, but the frontline stuff that they're pushing on us is not worthy of headlining a phone. And I hope, if you buy one of these and you like it, I'm happy for you. You spend enough money, you should like it. And if you're a Samsung fan coming from an older device, it's true. For the most part, there's no other game in town that you're going to go to. I get all that. But if you bought one of these, I really just hope it wasn't because of Galaxy AI, because let me tell you something, that is not ready for prime time, and we don't know how much it's going to cost in 6 months. This is a phone you're buying that you don't know what's being taken away and what it's going to cost you in 6 months' time. And to me, that's another reason to hold off on something like this. So, good phone, no problems with it. It's a fantastic experience. My problems are it shouldn't be an Ultra, it shouldn't be $1,300, and for the most part, it's a little disappointing that that's what Samsung has turned into. If you've made it this far, like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Until next time, have that Steve-licious day.